Greetings, YouTube. As I've said in the past, to the time it takes me to get into my caf at work and either put in my headphones, which I have phones like this at work that I have a built-in radio. They're actually hearing protection headphones, or get my pair of wired headphones into this, which I now need a dongle for because they don't have headphone jacks anymore. And this is an S20, which is the last Samsung S series that actually allows you to have a uh, uh, SD card. So yeah, maybe the last phone I ever buy. I guess we'll find out. Um, I have to listen to the television at work. Okay, so it's always on 24/7. It's never off, and it's on the History Channel. And I say History Channel with quotes because let's face it, there isn't a whole lot of history on the History Channel anymore. And one of the things that caught my attention when I was in the caf on my way, to, again, sitting down, getting something over my ears or in my ears so I wouldn't have to listen to it anymore, they were talking about the practice that is done by some people, some cultures, both in the present and in the past, to elongate the skulls of children so that as they develop, their skulls take an elongated shape, which I personally think is barbaric. But then again, I think genital mutilation is barbaric as well. We do lots of things to kids that I don't think we should be doing, but that's just me. But yeah, permanently malforming part of their body for the aesthetics or cultural traditions, I don't think is right. And I don't say that because these people are of a specific ethnicity. I just don't think we should be screwing with someone else's body without their consent. That's just me. Um, and So that caught my attention because it's not a common practice. People don't talk about it a great deal, but it does happen. It hasn't happened in the past, things like that. But the reason they were talking about this is that they were showing skulls that have been archaeologically excavated by white people, probably, then probably very, very quickly taken out of the country where they were uh, founded, and away from the culture where these skulls and bodies should have remained. That's another issue. Um, as proof that at some point in the past, humans bred with giants. Yes, they were taking real world human cadavers or skeletal structures from cadavers that had been created by parents intentionally malforming their child's skull as proof that humans had interbred with giants. And it stopped me dead in my tracks. Okay, now, I don't know if you know this, but to the best of my knowledge, the tallest person that we have verifiable proof to have ever lived was 8 foot 11.1 inches. And that is really bloody tall. That's a very tall human, okay? There is some anecdotal evidence that there may have been people in the past equal or slightly taller than that at some point, but that's debatable. We don't have the corpses to look at them. We don't know what they were like in life. We don't know how much uh, deformity could have taken place after death, or there's lots of different things in there. We have a few photographs of earlier giants, and we don't know if those are doctored photos or not. But again, we don't have the right kind of comparisons to make them to. Frequently, when a person was claimed to be a giant, they would often be taking a picture next to a person that was properly proportioned, but was actually very small. That made them look bigger. And there are forms of dwarfism where a person is properly proportioned. They don't look like a dwarf, a little person. They just happen to be a little person. Um, and so they use that as to make that person with giantism to look bigger. Um, but that's right up there at the upper limits that you can have a human is 8 foot 11.1 inches. So we're going to round that out to 9 feet. Okay. So after that point, human skeletal structures just aren't going to work. And you need to get progressively thicker limbs to support a significantly larger person. So outside of a high fantasy or even a low fantasy setting, a fantasy setting, you can't have humanoids that is any chance of actually being mobile, like pretty much above 9 feet tall. Okay? It just isn't going to happen. The biology just isn't there. Our skeletal structures did not evolve for that. The average, to the best of my knowledge, the average American male is 5'9", and the average American female is 5'6". That data could be out of date, but I'm not positive on that one. And with our horrible healthcare system in America and our terrible diets, maybe those measurements have gone down. I don't know. Um, but there were never giants on the earth. I understand that they held a very important place in mythology and in the components of some modern religions. Particularly Christianity, there are some folks that believe that giants walking the earth was a very important component of the Bible. Now, I'm not a biblical scholar, don't claim to be. But I don't know how many giants there were supposed to have been in the Bible. I know, of course, Goliath, the famous David and Goliath, but I don't know how many others there may have been. Were there a plethora of giant people in the Bible? Or is that kind of anecdotal to things that we think are in the Bible, but actually are not in the Bible? Um, and it bothers me when a channel that is supposed to be talking about science and history, or at least history, talks about this kind of woo-woo absolute BS. And I say this as a theist. If you're trying to impose your religion on science or your science on a religion, I think that you are equally wrong. And if you're trying to pass off humans that were supposed to have been giants, like 10 plus feet tall, actual fee fi fo fum kind of giants, off as plausible and could exist, no, that's wrong. And you should not be passing that off as information, as knowledge, as history. You can pass it off as folklore. Cool. I like folklore as much as the next dude does. I own thousands of RPG books, many of which are based on some kind of real world folklore. Uh, and I eat that kind of stuff up for breakfast. I think it's really cool. I don't think it's really cool when you try to pass off that folklore as being true. So anyone out there knows actual information or anecdotal or folklore information about how prevalent were giants in the actual biblical texts, and how prevalent are they in the ancillary texts and ancillary mythology outside the Bible, which is still held dearly to the hearts of some Christians. Because I know that there are a lot of Christians out there that hold things to their hearts that think that it's very important for them to believe in, which are actually not in the Bible. And they also seem to be remarkably good at ignoring the things that are in the Bible. For example, like feeding the hungry and housing the homeless and taking in immigrants, particularly those that are fleeing conflicts. For some reason, those passages are really easy to ignore.